Hello, and welcome to Creepycore and Folklore, the show about creatures, encounters, old tales, and myths. I'm your host, Iona Wayland, a dark fantasy author, mental health professional, and overall curious person. I want to join other spooky souls and hear about these unusual stories. Hello, spooky soul, and welcome to episode 17. This has been a little nuts this year, I have to say. I know I've talked about it before and you've heard me talk about it before, but I was just putting everything together of like how shit this year has been with health for me and how it's been like, okay, high risk pregnancy, early birth, baby's fine. I love my babo. But you know, that was crazy. Then going back to work, then I was randomly hit by a delivery truck that didn't stop at a stop sign on the highway. Like it's been nuts. And then I had this cold that lingered. So I'm gonna cross my fingers and I'm gonna knock on wood, but I feel healthy and great. I hope I didn't just tempt fate by saying that. But because of that, I need to get caught up with recording some episodes here because I like talking to my fellow spooky souls about things like this, like the creepy stuff. And thank you for sticking with me through all of this. I know I have some really lovely listeners that I've been talking to recently. There's been a lot of really cool stuff going on. I think just because, you know, it's spooky season. I mean, I feel like you can be spooky all year round. But at the time of me recording this, it's like really late October. And so it's really nice because I've been hearing back from, you know, like at the time of my recording this, whenever I release it, it'll already be over. But I'm having like a 99-cent sale for my dark fantasy novel, Ashes. And I've talked to like a whole bunch of new readers who are really resonating with it. And I thought that's like my dream, to be in the hands of the person that needed it most, like in like the one it's supposed to be in, like, and for people to be like, yeah, I like really resonated with this, or I really love this and I connected with it because of the sibling aspect of it, or I connected with it because of the survivorship aspect of it, or I connected with it because of the natural setting or the folkloric atmosphere of it. Like there's so many different ways to connect with it, like the grief side of things, or the setting out, forging my own path and making my own decision side. Like there are many different sides that people have said that they resonate with, and it's just like really cool that I could connect with people that way through my written work, because that is like literal dreams coming true here. And then another little literal dream coming true is people talking to me like about my podcast. Like this is so cool. And actually this particular episode is a mishmash of two different suggestions that people gave to me. And there was one day where I had a whole bunch of ideas, and there are certain ones that I want to release on certain days. So those particular concepts or subjects are accounted for, but the ones in between where I'm like, oh, basically like the world is your oyster kind of situation, I was like overwhelmed. I was like, I don't know what direction to go. Like, what do you want to know? So I asked like, what should I do like an episode on? What do you want to hear about? And I got so many really great suggestions. Like they were excellent. And there were only a couple where I was like, oh, I am going to do that, but I have this saved for a particular date, for a particular reason. But other than that, like, I was like, wow. So today I'm going to cover Orbs and Will-o'-the-Wisps. I'm very excited to cover it. There was way more about these than I thought there would be. And it was also interesting to see how different places across the world like interpret them. So first I'm going to start with the orbs. So there are tons of beliefs and tales about orbs and what they mean. And in case, you know, you don't know what they are, or you need a reminder of the visual, there are these little circles of light that show up in photographs and in videos. I actually just captured a really big one the other day when I was trying to get a glimpse of the moon. And I'll talk later about what they also could be. But it's pretty neat. They're really pretty, and they can kind of offer some like guidance or hope in a spiritual type of way, but they can also be explained with other types of things as well. But mine, when I was trying to capture the moon, there was this giant white orb that was humongous and took over like most of the video, the short video. So I'll make sure that I post that on my Instagram and TikTok, because sometimes I keep forgetting I have a TikTok. And so that people can see what that looked like and to see what a orb looks like. Another thing too is I'll make sure that, as usual, I cite my resources that I use for these episodes. And one of the resources for the orbs that was really helpful like gave examples of each kind. So that was really cool. So if you need a visual in that way, that's helpful. One belief system is that these orbs are a form of angelic energy that uses electromagnetic energies to convey some sort of message to the viewer. Some people think this because of its shape. It's an orb or a circle. So apparently there's a thought behind it of the shape of a circle has no corners to restrict the energy flow, and it can mean eternity, wholeness, or unity, which is the angelic mission. Following this angelic theory, a lot of people think that they show up in photos and videos because they exist outside of our natural field of vision. And if you continue to follow this angel theory, some people fear that these orbs could be fallen angels or demonic entities. So they say that if you feel afraid or upset, to listen to your gut instinct regarding that. Other people think that it could be your guardian angel, and that's why some people are often seen with orbs around them, or like if you take photos of your friend and every time you take a photo of your friend, there are orbs there. It could be because like that's their guardian angel or angels. But they say to just be really discerning about that, and if you trust the message, if you follow this angel theory. Some thoughts behind the angel theory is that sometimes there's a belief that when late relatives, or when relatives pass away, that particular late relative will become an angel. I know for lots of people that's not the belief, but there are some belief systems that the person transforms into an angel. And so it's kind of like that late relative is sending a message or a blessing your way, kind of like beyond the grave, so to speak. Another thought process that's slightly different than the angel theory is that these orbs are your spirit guides. So following the spirit guide thought process, this more focuses on the color of each orb that you see. Every orb that's depicted has a particular color, and they might even have patterns within them, but we're going to just focus on we're just going to focus on color specifically, just because pattern is so up for interpretation. I'm saying this as if color isn't up for interpretation, but you know how much I love color theory and how it affects the brain and different people's subjective responses to it. Also, oh my goodness, my babo has been really wanting to talk. She's been babbling a lot. Yeah, do you have something you want to say? Something to say about spirit guides? Is that really like calling to you? Oh, she's so sweet. I don't know. Of course, now she's not talking. She's been talking in the other room a lot. Of course, now she's not going to talk at all. She just wants to eat the microphone. We can't eat the microphone. No, we can't eat the microphone. Sorry. That's not food. Good job. You're a little podcaster. I'm so proud. We're having a little baby concert in the other room because she loves music so much. And super simple songs. If you've ever heard of that YouTube channel, plays all day, every day in this household. Oh my goodness. Whether it's my day with her or my husband's day with her, there is always super simple songs playing in the background. It's fun. But sometimes those songs get stuck on my head. And actually, this is relevant. I'm planning on doing an episode on nursery rhymes, because some of the songs that I was hearing, I was like, what are they singing about? And then I was looking it up and I was like, oh my God, this is really dark. I was like, well, this is just fodder for some Creepycore and Folklore episodes. But back to spirit guides and the colors that may have different representations. I'm going to be using the resource that'll be in the show notes by Karen Fraser. That's the one I was telling you about that has like picture examples so that you can get like a visual for what I'm talking about. So if you want like a visual aid while I'm talking about them, that's cool. Oh, another theory that this particular article covers is that if the orb is related to someone who's passed over, like a spirit or a ghost type of situation as well. So I thought that was interesting too. It starts off with clear, a clear, like where you can kind of only barely see the outline of the orb, kind of means that like there's that spirit guide is trying to communicate and that there's a significant event that's happened in that particular location. It's funny too, because I don't know if you like animated shows, but there's a show called Dead End. I think it's based off of a comic series by Hamish Steele. And it was cool because, well, I don't want to give anything away, but there was a spirit that is an orb shape. So I thought that was really neat because I was like, hey, I just did research on this. But anyway, so this is from like a spirit guide perspective, and then some of these are from the ghost perspective. But anyway, so if you see a clear orb, it could mean that their spirit guide is trying to connect with you. Or if it's from a ghost perspective, then there maybe was something significant that happened in that location, and that it wants to move on, or it might be asking you to tune into your intuition. A silver orb represents guidance and connection to a higher source. If it's a ghost orb, not a spirit guide orb, then it might be the spirit of someone who was religious or spiritual before they died. A white orb, this is the one that I was saying was really intense that I captured the other day when I was trying to capture a video of the moon that just like absolutely took up almost my entire screen. Yeah, it could have, been a reflection or the camera not quite focusing, but, just like, let me have this, because white is considered a spirit guide being from the angelic realm and being divine guidance. And it could be also from like a ghost perspective. It could be someone that's very pure of heart. On the opposite end of that spectrum, a black orb usually has lots of associations or assumptions that it's negative, but usually it means protection. Of course, you need to go with your gut or and use your own discernment, but most of the time it's saying that like a black orb is your spirit guide protecting you, or a ghost that was very protective or is protecting you in that moment. Brown is, so I'm not as familiar with like high and low spiritual energy. I'm not sure quite what that means. But brown is considered, quote, low spiritual energy, or like an earth spirit. But again, like listen to your gut during these situations. Orange represents vitality, joy, connection, and belonging. It can also represent creativity and creative energy. Maybe that's why I respond so well to October, and I don't like all of fall, but October in particular is very early fall, and that's when all the leaves change where I live, because I live in like the eastern part of the US and more like northern part of Appalachia, and so we get those trees that change color, and they're like fiery orange, like burnt red, like those kinds of colors, like the beautiful golden browns. And so it makes me wonder if like maybe I'm just seeing orange everywhere and I'm like, I feel creative and I don't know why. It was cool too, because I had a couple people reach out to me and say that they feel really creative in October. And even though the change in season can sometimes bring feelings of melancholy with it. And sometimes people take like a dip in their mood with the seasons, which I think is very natural personally. It's neat because there's like this little burst of energy during the fall sometimes for some folks. So red can mean to seek protection, or that you're currently being protected. So this kind of reminds me of the black orb, although this one is more of like a warning, whereas the black orb was actually like being your defense. The red orb is like alert, alert kind of situation. From a ghost perspective, it could be an angry or just very passionate ghost. And sometimes people think that passion is an emotion, but passion just means a lot of a particular type of emotion. So like if someone's passionately in love or passionately angry, or passionately happy, or passionately creative, it just means very of each of those emotions I just listed. So not to insult your intelligence, you probably already knew that, but in case you didn't, passion is not an emotion. It's just like the intensity of the emotion. A gold orb is considered divine, but it can also be considered luck. And from a ghost perspective, it could be someone that was very lucky in life, which I find very ironic because I know everyone passes. And so, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, well, then why are they dead then? Like, why are they a ghost? It's just more like, I just find it ironic because it's like that thing where it's like, I'm going to name them lucky. And then like everything bad happens to that particular person that with that nickname, or that particular animal just seems like jinxed with all the weird things that go on, or like health issues every once in a while. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spending too much time by myself and cracking myself up. I don't know. So a green orb, favorite color alert, by the way, I love green. Green and purple are my two. Well, I like orange too. Green, purple, and orange are pretty tied, but green is like my ultimate favorite. And actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, I just realized they're all the secondary colors. I'm a secondary color kind of fan. I just love them. Oh, also, I know I just keep talking about orange today, but I got Marigold back. And I know you probably already know this, but I finally it's my car that was in that really freak accident. And I finally got her back. It's like been 2 months and there was like crazy amount of damage, but she's good as new, as orange as ever. That's why I named her Marigold, because she's like obnoxiously orange. And it feels really good to be back in the saddle, so to speak. But back to green orbs. So this is associated with the heart, but it can also, I don't know if they mean heart as in like heart chakra. I admittedly do not know much about chakras or like auras and stuff like that. But I don't know if they mean that, or if they mean heart like the actual organ. I don't know. Like if it means your heart is healthy or you should get it checked out. I'm not sure. And then also nature, healing, or maybe the person's in need of healing. It means love or oneness with nature. So I think that's really beautiful. The yellow orb is seen as a warning or to proceed with caution. If it's from a ghost, like if you get that, if you don't feel like it's a spirit, if you feel like it's a different entity, not your own spirit guide reaching out to you, then it's supposedly a malevolent spirit. So you have to be really, really careful. I guess both of those things mean to get to safety. So this next one I find very interesting, and it kind of like made me think about anecdotally and coincidentally some things that I've noticed. But the next one is the blue orb, and from a spirit guide perspective, it means speaking your truth. It's supposedly calming. It's representative of giving the person tranquility and peace, and being supportive of someone speaking and sharing and living their truth. There's actually been times where I and loved ones and people I've worked with too have had to do really difficult things or share about a trauma in order to be safe. Whether it was like legally or like with certain family members or with certain friends, so that they can have the appropriate boundaries with the people that have harmed them, so that they can live the safest life possible. And it's very interesting because I didn't think about it until doing like this kind of like fun research, that blue orbs would often show up. So that's just kind of a nice thought. Even if it's a coincidence, it's just kind of like a nice peaceful thought to have, that, you know, it's nice to think about something kind of like guiding you and being supportive of you, even when you're having to do something that you should never have to go through. The next one is gray. So this one is representative of ambivalence, meaning that it's not feeling one way or the other. So this can also represent lack of spiritual guidance, which I thought was very interesting. And then from a ghost perspective, it could be one who was lacking spiritual awareness. And then the last one is violet, another fave color alert. So this can represent psychic abilities, dreaming about divine guidance, tuning into psychic abilities. Here's what I found very interesting, and this makes sense because I've been trying to hone in my skill with scrying, and I've been trying to get into crystal ball reading, and I've been practicing a lot with that, and I think I've been getting better with it and understanding like the symbolism of it and stuff like that. I still have to Google and kind of cheat and look things up because I can see stuff and tap into things. That part's cool. I'm able to do that, but the interpretation part of it is very difficult. I'm not always trusting like my interpretation of it, and sometimes I need help with that. But when I read that like some people can even produce their own orbs if they have this kind of like violet or purple energy, I was baffled. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And it made me think about how there was once where I was doing a crystal ball reading on someone's partner, and I don't do them like officially. Like I really consider every time I do a crystal ball reading as like practice, because I really don't know what I'm doing yet. And I just am still so new at this. But immediately, like some people, it takes a little while to get into it and to read, and the visuals that I get with it are kind of nebulous. But with this one, immediately got like warm violet, like / purple lavender, like all of the, like just a warm violet light. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And it felt good. So I thought that was really cool, that I was like, oh, this is nice. This person has some sort of gift. And at first I misinterpreted it, and the person was like, oh, doesn't that mean third eye? And I was like, oh yeah, it does. You're right. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but basically purple or violet is like a really strong psychic energy, personal intuition, that kind of thing. And some people are gifted with that, and they can kind of hone their skill to the point where they can even create their own orbs, which I thought was really cool. The next one is pink. Pink orbs can mean love, showing that your guide is trying to teach you or provide guidance in that moment. And some people sometimes think it's an archangel. I found that very interesting because it didn't bring that up with the white orb, but I thought that was cool. It can also show love from a deceased family member that is still with you. It's supposed to represent encouragement, hope, peace, and it's always exclusively associated with love. So here are some other possible explanations as to why there are orbs. The camera lens could be coated with stuff that can cause different colors to show up in reflections. They're called lens flare orbs. Like they're officially called lens flare orbs, like outside of like the metaphysical world. Though many believe that there are no such thing as coincidences. So even if you're able to trace it back to like a scientific or physical aspect of it, people still believe like, hey, this is a big deal and I still want to take this as some sort of communication with me. Other ways is there could be like reflective surfaces, dust, rain, water spots, bugs. And like I was saying, like my phone camera was maybe trying to focus on like the moon is kind of hard. So it was like zooming in and out and trying to focus. But I also like to believe that, you know, there's maybe some coincidences, but some things that are like helpful to know and help kind of be a catalyst for self-reflection. Some orbs or light entities can be seen with the naked eye, and one of those that I'm covering today will be Will-o'-the-Wisps. So this is where we're going to transition into specifically Will-o'-the-Wisps. So these are really simple, like little balls or like wisps of light. They can range from very, very bright, like blinding light, to very dim where you have to like squint to see them, or they're almost like a glow in the dark glow where they don't actually illuminate anything. They typically have a bluish gleam, but some red have been reported. And sometimes there's a dark figure said to be holding this wisp of light. And we're about to see how this ties in. So the personality, so to speak, of these wisps tend to seem innocent or friendly, but they're usually deceitful or malevolent. They're said to, or to be like a trickster, but not quite. Like they're supposed to be things from maybe spirits that weren't let into heaven, but also weren't let into hell. So these wisps are said to lead people astray to fairies that might do quite a bit more damage, just get them a little bit lost or a lot lost, or lead them into bogs where they're never seen again. So think of, you know, Stingy Jack of Jack-o'-lantern from the Halloweeny episode. That's one of the examples. So the classic story was that there was a blacksmith named Will, again, like Stingy Jack, who was a blacksmith. And Will was a troublemaker. And he was turned away by St. Peter at Heaven's Gate. And he was said that like, hey, you have a chance to reform during your second life. But this time, after he was given this second life, because he wasn't so bad that he would go to hell, but he was not good enough to get into heaven, he was actually even worse during his second time around. So he was cursed to wander forever. And the devil was actually impressed by Will's like continued like being a little shit, basically. And he gave him a coal from the embers of hell. Doesn't this sound familiar? And Will uses it to this very day to trick travelers that whether they know where they're going or not, he tries to lure them off their path. These myths can actually be found all over the world, though mostly they're discussed in the British Isles. But other names for it are Jack-o'-lantern, of course, Peg-o'-lantern, Joan the Wad, Jenny the Lantern, Hobbity's Lantern, Hinky Punk, and Spunkies. So this part, again, somebody that is lovely in Jenna Moressi's Cyborg Central Discord server. That was a mouthful. Their name's Myth Interpreted, which I think is hilarious. They're very punny. They're from the Netherlands, but I also like I'm really worried that I'm going to mispronounce it because I asked them for help and they were so good at teaching me how to say it, but I still am worried about it. So this particular myth is seen in the Netherlands, but they're called Dwaallicht or Wanderlight, which, thank you, Jay. I hope I pronounced that correctly. In Sweden, there's Örlblos, and then, I think in Finland there's Liekko, and I am butchering these, so thank you for bearing with me. In Asia, in different parts of Asia, there's the Alea and the Chibati. These are seen as souls marking where they actually died. In the Netherlands, they're actually seen as potential souls of unbaptized children leading people to holy water where they can be baptized. So there's definitely an agenda there, but they also could be guarding buried treasure. And I thought that was very interesting. In Asia, the Alea or the Chirbati are souls that mark where they died, like the place where they died. So they aren't quite leading anyone anywhere. It's just like almost like a grave marker. In Australia, the Min Min, what happens is that the wispy light follows behind travelers, and like you can see it following behind you, but if you turn around and follow it back, you'll be lost forever. In South America, there's Luz Mala or La Candileja. So Luz Mala means bad light. These are usually seen as evil spirits, and it's seen as lost souls that carry ghost lights after they have died. In the US, we have orbs. That's fun. In Germany, there's the Erdlicht, but I sometimes don't trust these articles to tell me where each are, because when I asked Jay where each of these were coming from, they were like, oh nope, that's not a Dutch word, that's a Swedish word. And they're like, oh wait, no, actually that one's a Finnish word, this is the Dutch term for it. So I was like, I don't trust anything anymore. So I'm putting all the resources below, but I definitely got thoroughly confused when it came to Scandinavia and like Norden and like what was going on there. I'm also sure that there's some crossover between like folk tales too and sightings of these entities as well, but I struggled. So again, thank you for helping me. In France, there's the Foufoulé, and there's also the Ignis Fatuus, which is the foolish fire or the luring light. So these were culturally in written works in like the 13th century, and even in today's stories, such as in Disney's Brave. But it's been around across the world from oral traditions, especially from Cornish, Nordic, and indigenous peoples that have warned about these luring lights for a really, really long time, like prehistorically. There is a basis for these luminous lights based in science. So there's a glow of bioluminescent mushrooms and algae that causes a bluish light. Another option is that it could be swamp gas that's like evaporating, and then when it gets just the right amount of light that comes through, it can make it look illuminated. But that decomposition and that release of methane is very interesting. But I don't know. That's for, we take in the folklore, we take in the scientific evidence, and then we come up with our own interpretation of things, I think. Basically, no matter what, just be wary, because whether it's a malevolent entity or a trickster entity trying to lure you away, or whether it's like bog gas, you probably shouldn't follow it either way. William Collins wrote, "Ah, homely swains, your homeward steps ne'er lose. Let not dark will mislead you to the heath. Dancing in murky night o'er fen and lake, he glows to draw you downward to your death. In his bewitched low marshy willow brake." That's a warning if I ever heard one. So I hope that you have a lovely week. Please don't get lost in the woods. Please don't get lost in the bogs. Please don't follow malevolent entities anywhere that you don't plan on going. And I will talk to you about more spooky things next week. Thanks to all you spooky souls out there for listening to Creepycore and Folklore. Follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok if you're looking for more uncanny content. If you have your own tales to tell, you can email creepycoreandfolklore@gmail.com. If you liked this, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, or tell a friend who might enjoy these stories to spread the word. If you're interested in dark fantasy, check out my Hollowverse series. Ashes is available now in paperback and ebook on Amazon and audiobook on Audible, and the sequel is underway. I'm Iona Wayland, and I'll see you next time.